A few weeks ago, I got an invite to this 10, 25, 50 Best Bet Jacksonville live stream game uncapped buy-in. I hop in the car 4 hours later and I am here. Remember, I'm a semi-retired, broke, terrible poker player, so I only buy in for $10,000. In this first hand, George raises in the cutoff to $150. Pocket queens for me on the button. Starting out here, I re-raise to $450. Maybe he'll think I'm messing around on the button. He'll put in a light 4-bet, but this time he decides to just call. I wish he would have put in more money pre-flop when I see a queen high board giving me top set. He checks to me, I bet about 1/3 size of the pot, and he folds his ace high. In this next hand, a Best Bet Jacks regular on these live streams raises it up from early position. Dawn makes it $150 to go. If you guys don't recognize him, he's actually wearing a shirt with long sleeves. I didn't actually think he had those kind of shirts in his wardrobe. I make the call on the button with pocket deuces, going set mining here. Heads up to a flop of 9-6-3 rainbow. When Don checks over to me on this board, I think he could be trapping sometimes, but a lot of the time he's just going to have a lot of overcards to the board. Ace high, king high, queen high. So I put out a pretty large bet of $300, hoping to get him to fold out those hands that will have equity against me. But once he calls, I'm going to shut this one down. It's funny, I was actually praying for a 2 on the turn. Thank God I did not hit it. I end up checking back this turn card and then folding to a river bet by Dawn. I upgrade from the worst pocket pair to the best pocket pair. Next hand in the cutoff, I raise to $200 with aces. Todd makes the call on the button before the small blind, who I don't have any history with, puts in a small 3-bet to $600 out of position. Now, I know the graphics say he's got around $4,700, but from the look of it, it looked like he had around $3,500 when I looked over. I think this is a pretty standard 4-bet spot for me, but I've got the best hand you can get. If I 4-bet, he'll fold out all of his bluffs, and I want to play some pots with Todd behind me. We're rather deep stacked, so I just make the call. Super slow play here. I'm going 3 ways. This could get me in trouble. Gonna have to tread a little bit lightly, but on a jack 2-4 flop, I feel pretty good about my holding. Now the small blind continues for a $700 bet, leaving himself with what looks like less than $3,000 left. And I decide now to just raise it up to $3K, putting him all in, trying to get called by a jack, queens, or kings, or pocket tens. Now I actually don't like this play. I think if I slow play pre-flop, I should continue to slow play on this flop to continue to allow Todd in there with worse hands. And it doesn't really matter though. Todd missed and Dave missed as well. And we take down a decent pot here with pocket aces. Early on, I'm up around $1,000 or $1,700 within the first hour. As a poker vlogger or a content creator, I do feel like when I go on live streams, I have somewhat of an obligation to not completely knit it up and wait for super premium hands. So I raise a hand 7-3 of diamonds in the cutoff that I should not be raising according to the charts. I do feel like I take this a little bit too far sometimes. I should just be playing my best at all times. But I just feel like I should get in there, and to be honest, it definitely cost me some money, which it will in this hand. 4 ways to a king high board completely missing. I did not decide to c-bet on this board, so I check back, and the turn's an ace. And when 2 players check to me, I think this is a spot I could steal this pot. I can have all the strong hands on this board, so I bet $400 complete airball bluff. And once Todd makes the call, big blind makes the call as well, and I'm just going to shut this one down. I don't put any more money in this pot, but I do feel like the line I took in this hand could come into factor in the next hand I play when I pick up an actual premium with ace king offsuit. And to be honest, I'm not sure if these players are even paying that close of attention to the hands to know that I checked the flop, took a stab on the turn, and then folded to a bet on the river. But like I said, maybe it could come into factor in this next hand. Ace-king I raised to $150, and again, I end up getting 3 callers. This time I do flop well on a king 6-6 rainbow board. Top pair, top kicker for me. But I decided to do the same thing I did last hand and check, and it checks all the way around to the button, who checks behind. Turn card 4, now bringing in a flush draw. Big blind checks, and now I'm going to put out a bet $400, exactly the same size as last time when I was bluffing with 7 high. This time Todd gets out of the way, but Dave comes along with a call on the button. I did notice a few hands before this. Dave played pretty passively with an overpair on a 10 high board. It's definitely possible he could have checked back the flop with a middling king X hand and some pocket pairs as well. So I'm going to target those hands. I feel like he could call given the fact that I checked on the flop, and maybe it looks like I'm trying to steal it here. I make it $1,300 to go. Back over to Dave here on the button. Looks like he's contemplating a call or a fold, and I'm hoping for a call, but that doesn't happen. He reaches for raising chips, and I already know in my head if he raises, I'm snap folding, and once he makes it 2,800, the cards hit the muck before the graphics can even reach it. I think this is a spot that is never bluffed, and as you guys can see, he turned a boat up against my ace-king. Kind of a sick cooler there. Top pair, top kicker on that board versus trips, and I end up losing around $1,500 in this hand. We now get into the first interesting hand of this session. I'm in the hijack with King-Jack offsuit. I raise to $150, and Todd next to act re-raises me here to $425. Now, up against a nit, I would snap fold this King-Jack offsuit, but Todd gives a lot of action to this table. I played with him multiple times on these Best Bet Jacksonville live streams, and he's a player I want to mix it up with. If you give action, I feel like you got to get some action back. So I make the call, pretty loose one here. King-Jack offsuit going to a flop around 5K effective to 8-3-3 2 hearts. I check to him and he snap checks this one back. Turn card's a 10 of spades. Now, if we go back to pre-flop, once Todd re-raises me, I think he's going to have some premium type hands. Ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack, king-queen suited, and all bigger pocket pairs. Once he checks back this 8-high board, I just don't think he's ever going to have an overpair. I think his overpairs are always going to be betting. Aces, kings, queens, tens, jacks, all those hands are going to be betting on this flop. So when this turn 10 comes, I feel like it's a spot where I could bet here and get him to fold out hands that are slightly better than mine, that he would 3-bet pre-flop and then check back on this flop. Hands like ace-king, ace-jack, ace-queen, and king-queen, I feel like he would always raise those hands pre-flop and then maybe check back on an 8-3-3 board. So I put out a bet of $500, trying to get those hands to fold. The other thing I know about Todd is that he's stickier than the gum that gets stuck to the bottom of your shoe, so I'm pretty sure he's still going to call here on this turn, but I definitely feel like on the river, if he doesn't improve, he would fold out all those ace-high hands that we're losing to. 3 of spades on the final card, the pot's around $2,000, and I have a decision to make. I can check and give up this king high and have him check back hands like ace king, ace queen, and ace jack and lose, or I could put out a bet. Now, the other problem is, like I said, he's very sticky. If I put out a half-size pot bet or even a full-size pot bet on this river, I think it's possible he could hero call me here with ace king or ace queen. However, if I really put him to the test, and I mean really put him to the test, like an all-in bet, there's no way he's ever calling an all-in bet with ace-king, ace-queen, or ace-jack. And like I said, I don't think he ever has an overpair on this board like aces, kings, and queens, and jacks. I also don't think he's going to have many 10x hands either, because remember, he 3-bet pre-flop. We also block some combos of jack 10 and king 10. Just don't think he's going to have many 10x hands in his 3-bet range. I think he's going to call a lot of the time with those hands. So with that being said, I decided to go for it here, and I decided to go for the max, and I put him all in for $4,000.
Oh my God, all in a snap call? What just happened? What just happened? How much was in the middle? That was the fastest action I've ever seen in my life. Oh my God, Todd gets all of Lexo, bluffing with just king high.
Alrighty then, I guess my assessment was a little bit off. He does in fact have some 10x hands in his range. Ace 10 is a snap call, and Todd beats me into the pot. I end up losing over $5,000 in this hand. What makes me feel a little bit better, though, is that after the hand I asked Todd, would you have folded ace queen, ace king if I went all in on the river? And he said, oh yeah, of course. Now the question is, what do I do? I'm down $7,000 in a deep stacked poker game. According to the internet trolls, I suck, I'm terrible. Of course that bluff's not going to work. He always has a 10 there. I'm semi-retired from poker, so it must mean I've lost all my money playing poker. It must not be any other reason. Maybe I should quit. Maybe I should put my name on the 1-2 no limit list and start all over. Maybe I should fire up that Uber app and start taking rides for $8 an hour like I did back in 2018. Or I could reach deep down into my bag and pull out another stack of $10,000, $100 bills and continue to fight. I'm going to let the big red machine, William Montgomery, tell you guys my answer.
I don't think I'm probably ever gonna. No, Tony, I know I ain't ever gonna stop. All right.
Just a few hands later, after that bluff gone wrong, it folds to Miguel here in the cutoff, who raises to 150. I'm in the small blind with Jack 9 of hearts, a hand I want to play, but I think plays better as a 3-bet here out of position. So I raise it up to $600. I haven't even gotten my $10,000 worth of extra chips now. Back over to Miguel. He doesn't think for too long and makes a call, which makes me think he's got a middling strength hand. Nothing too strong here. So going heads up at a position to a queen 7-3 2-club board. Now, he should never have any 2 pairs on this board. He can really only have 2 sets, 7s and 3s. So I think it's a good board to continue for a C-bet and look to continue to double barrel on the turn if he continues to call. After a $400 bet, he looks over at his cards and then calls. And the turn card's the 9 of spades, now giving me second pair, and what I think is probably the best hand on this board. I mean, he could have some queen X hands that he raised and then called with pre-flop, but a lot of the time, he's going to have some middling pocket pairs, some flush draws, some 7X hands, and maybe a hand like ace 3. So I continue now for value with a half pot size bet of $1,000. Miguel thinks and makes the call. Again, I will not be putting any more money in this pot. When the river pairs the board, I check. He checks back, and he's got a slightly better 9 than me with ace-9 of clubs, and just like that, we are down $10,000. Trying to get some money back here, but unfortunately I go card dead for a while. About an hour later, I finally pick up a playable hand with ace-king offsuit. George raises in the hijack to $200. I make it $600 next to act. This game is big. Over now to Greg in the third blind, and he cold calls this 3-bet. I think he's going to have a decent amount of pocket pairs when he cold calls here, and maybe some suited Broadway hands and some suited ace-X hands. Back over now to George, who makes the call for $600 as well. We are 3 ways in position, nearly $2,000 in the middle. This could be a good hand to get me unstuck here, but a flop of 8, 3, 4, 2 diamonds is not good for me. However, I feel like I do have the range advantage on this board. I can have aces, kings, and queens. My opponents will not have many sets on this board in a 3-bet pot and shouldn't have any 2 pairs. So I continue now for a $600 bet, looking to continue to bluff if a diamond comes out on the turn. However, I will not be seeing the turn. Greg flopped a set here of 3s. He raises to 2,000, back over to me, and I snap fold. I will say it's definitely not fun being at the bottom of this list, down nearly $10,000. But this game is big. The straddles are on. I actually try to get the table to do a round of $100 straddles. When I'm stuck a lot of money, I'm trying to make the stakes go up, looking for anything to try to make some big pots happen. With blinds still at $10.25, I'm the $50 straddle. I call a raise with queen jack of clubs from a cutoff open. This player seems to be playing fairly snug, but also seems to know what he's doing. Seems to be somewhat studied as well. Flop comes out ace king 5, and he c-bets for $150. On this board, I'm just going to have to call. I will have 0 raises on this board, so that's what I do. Praying for a 10, and oh my god, I hit it. I make the nuts. I finally make a hand. I check over to my opponent, who now continues for a $400 bet. Now, this is around 2/3 size of the pot. Just from looking at this guy, I feel like he definitely is capable of double barreling with hands that may have hardly any equity against me, and also will be value betting hands like ace-jack or ace-7, ace-9, hands that are drawing completely dead. So I think against this player, a call is the best. Against a player who doesn't have any double barrel bluffs, I would want to raise for value. Against this guy, I want to keep his bluffs in there. Anyway, final card's a 9 of spades. Not the best card. He ends up checking this one back, and I do think we won the max versus his particular holding. I don't think he's calling much of a raise on the turn. Maybe he would call a raise trying to bank a straight on the river, but I doubt it. Either way, chips are being pushed in my direction. 11.4K now sitting in front of us. 6-handed now as one of the players has left and Greg is off the table. I raise to $150 with queen jack of diamonds this time. Same hand, just different suit. From early position, it folds now to Miguel and the big blind, who calls, and George completes as well. 3 ways in position again to a jack-high board, giving me top pair. Okay. Finally, some things are turning around here. I'm making some hands, making a straight, making a pair. I'm going to bet big on this board, thinking that any worse jack's going to call me, any 7X is going to call me, Any straight draw and flush draw will call me as well. $325 to go over to Miguel, who does not call. He puts in a raise to $1,300. George gets out of the way, and now we are in a weird spot. I flop top pair, backdoor flush draw on a super unconnected board, and I'm getting raised big to $1,300. Should I fold my top pair, or do I just have to be a hero and call down here, putting him on maybe some straight draws or flush draw semi-bluffs, or maybe he's raising a hand like Jack 9 or Jack 10 that we're beating. Now, against some players, I would probably just call down here and get sticky, putting them on some draws. But against this particular player, I just don't think he has enough bluffs in this situation for me to be profitable calling down here with top pair. I only really lose to pocket sevens and pocket deuces, though. He never has an overpair. He would always re-raise that pre-flop. He's never raising a jack on this board, and he never has jack 7, 7 deuce, or jack deuce. So it's a pretty sick spot to be in. I literally only lose to pocket sevens and pocket deuces, but I just don't think he's bluffing. He's got to try to get through George as well, which makes his raise even stronger. And if you guys think back before, when he had ace 9 of clubs against my jack 9 of hearts, he flopped a flush draw and he just called down. He did not play that aggressively. I just don't think he's playing a draw aggressively on this board, so I decided to let go of my top pair.
Lexo stays disciplined. Hard to do when you're stuck, but good read, good laydown.
Now, of course, you guys can see that he did, in fact, flop a set. I feel like I kind of lost a minimum in this hand, to be honest. I never really show PLO double board bomb pots because I just feel like they're so confusing, but this one is pretty wild. Everybody puts $50 in pre-flop. We see 2 flops, and it's uncapped after these 2 boards. I have King 7-9-9. You can see me there in the middle. And look at that top board, King 7-7. I flop a boat, and I have a gut shot straight draw down below as well. George checks, everybody checks to me, and I pot it here for $350. Over now to the button, who makes the call, and oh my god, do you see his hand? Dave C. He's got King. That's why these double board bomb pots are so insane. I have a boat. He has a slightly better boat. I also block his boat having a king as well. Now back over to George after I potted it, and there's a call, and he raises to $1,300. These PLO bomb pots are wild. Now, in my mind, I have the nuts. I mean, I block kings. There's only one other combination that beats me. I block quad sevens. I don't have anything on the bottom board, though, so I have to tread a little bit lightly. I do call this $1,300 raise, and Dave very quickly calls behind me, which I feel like was raising some alarm bells. Now on the top board, it's a 10, so I do now lose to pocket 10s. And the bottom board pairs the board with a 6, so that reduces some of my outs. If I was drawing towards a straight, now potentially someone has a full house. Over now on George, who re-raised on the flop, and he pots it again for $4,200. You may be thinking to yourself, Lex, this is the time to repot and get it all in. You got a full house, someone's betting $4,000. Well, not in a PLO double board bomb pot uncapped. I'm actually thinking that I'm just going to have to let this one go. I know I'm only really losing to pocket 10s and pocket kings. I mean, that's it. One combination of each, which is pretty crazy. But when all this money's going in the middle, I know someone's got the nuts. And it's very possible I could be getting quartered here, where I have the same hand as George, King 7, and then Dave has the bottom board, and end up losing half my stack. And also, I could be drawing dead against kings and pocket 10s. I don't know. I have been playing a ton of PLO double board bomb pots since June, and I've known that you just don't want to be putting a lot of money in without the nuts. So I make the fold here for $4,200 with a full house. Dave C gets it all in with pocket kings, and ends up scooping a $21,000 pot.
Huge bet. Sick fold by Lex, dude. How did he find it?
How does he find
How did Lex
it?
find that fold?
Oh my goodness. How does that happen?
I don't understand how
Dave.
Dave didn't get more from Lex. Like, that's
Yeah.
absolute incredible
Did you see
fold
what
from
Dave said
Lexo.
there too? He's just like, I folded King 7. Oh my god.
How?
After seeing the hand, oh my god, I literally just saved myself like $10,000. Just insane. Yeah. It's definitely not my day on the poker felt, but I will take this as a big win. Not too much happens after this. I'm just trying to get something going. As you can see, $9,000 in my stack. I'm in for $20K, so I'm down over $10,000 still. I have pocket 9s here, blind versus blind against Todd. I end up betting the flop and betting the turn, checking back the river, and losing to King 2 offsuit. We only have about 45 minutes left in the stream, so the people who are stuck are really trying to push the action. Greg now raises, Miguel now 3 bets on the button, and versus configuration cutoff versus button with ace-queen in the big blind. I think this is just a 4-bet spot, even though I don't like it versus Miguel because I think he's going to have a pretty strong hand here. I think my hand is just way too strong to fold, and I think cold calling is pretty bad. So I put in a 4-bet to $1,500. I'm stuck a lot of money. Let's try to win a big one. Over $3,000 in the middle to queen 8-9 rainbow. On this board in a 4-bet pot, I'm just going to be trying to check it and get to showdown. I don't see too much value in betting here, especially when you can easily have 8s, 9s, 10 jack, possibly even kings and aces. Turn card's a 4, I check again, and the river card is a bad one. It's a king. If the river card was not a king, I would have value bet, but I ended up playing this one a little bit passively versus this particular player. We could have got value from his particular hand, 6-7 on the turn and on the flop, but played it passively, took down over $1,700, and now we are working back. $11,000 in our stack, only $9,000 to go.
One blind bet for the people, Greg? Like what? Whatever you want to do. You can do 200 for like sure. There's a good chance I re-raise this.
As you guys probably heard, George, who's stuck heaps, even more than me, asked Greg to put in a blind bet for $300. He then says it's a good likelihood chance that he's going to re-raise this blind bet, and he does raise to $1,000 on the button. I'm now in the small blind with pocket kings. Oh my God, what a 6 spot. There's only 20 minutes left on the stream. It's a blind bet to 300, a raise to 1,000 against a player who's somehow stuck more than me in this game. It's going to look pretty fishy if I put in a re-raise here, but of course I'm going to. I size it to $3,000, but I guess I was too excited, and I ended up putting $3,200. Well, doesn't make too much of a difference. Back over now to Greg with ace-5 offsuit. He says it's close. Obviously, I'm praying he puts it in here, but he ends up folding, and before the cameras get over to George, George announces all in.
Calling. Twice.
And wow. After Greg folds, George immediately goes all in. Lex snap calls, obviously. And if Lex can hold on these runouts, he'll be unstuck.
The commentator is correct. I'm in this game for $20,000, and as you can see, the pot has $20,791. If I can somehow hold here with pocket kings, I'll actually be up on this session with just minutes left to go. Now, once I show my hand to George, pocket kings, he doesn't show pocket aces, so that's great. We're not losing. And he tells me that he's going to let me know if he catches up. So I have no idea what I'm trying to fade. Am I trying to fade an ace? Does he have pocket queens or pocket jacks? Does he just have a suited connector? I have no idea, but this is a huge sweat. He asked to run it 2 times, and I have 100% of my action in this game. If I somehow lose this one, it'll be one of the bigger losses I've had in a very long time of $20,000. So I am definitely okay with running this board out 2 times. A massive spot here. Please, sweet baby Jacksonville, Jesus, let us hold 1 time.
We're so good on the first run out, and there it is. Holds on the first board. Just needs to fade the ace on the second run out. Queen flop. Ugh, got there on the turn. George finds one of the 2 remaining aces.
Wow, I got so lucky.
This has got to be the worst case of poker blue balls I've ever had. I was just 2 cards away from winning a $20,000 pot and actually being up on this session after getting crushed the entire time, and they have to put the ace of hearts on the second board. I mean, thank God he somehow didn't hit a straight or trips on the top board. I mean, this doesn't happen very often. It's pretty rare to get it all in for $20,000 and be like a 70+% favored. Greg had the same hand, ace-5 offsuit, which means I was probably 75% to win this one. Fairly tilting, could have got unstuck, but hey, that is poker. Leading in to the last hand of the night. For this last orbit, we have bumped the game to 10, 25, 50, 100. So I'm in the $100 re-straddle, and Greg calls $100. George calls, and I get to check my option with Queen 5 offsuit. Okay, get to see a free flop here where I completely miss on a king high board with 2 clubs. Action checks to me, and I check behind. Turn card is the king of clubs. Pair is the top card, but does give me the queen high flush draw. Greg now leads out for $300, and George calls. I probably could let go of my hand, but against these two players with the second nut flush draw, I just think I have to call in position. And I hit my flush, jack of clubs on the river. I have the second nut flush here. That is a paired board, but as you can see, I am just running into it yet again. Greg has the ace high flush, and he bets huge, $2,000 into a $1,200 pot. I've got the second nut flush. I don't lose to many full houses in a limp pot. What should I do?
Just Lex, just story of his night. Max Payne.
I feel like I rolled
Again finds a good fold. Like,
How does he do?
he should be down so much more.
Yeah.
Pretty sick. I just have to fold another strong hand. The thing is Greg just doesn't have many bluffs on that river once he gets called twice. I just think he's going to have a full house with the ace of clubs, but still a pretty sick spot. The game ends up breaking after this. I'm going to book a loss. I end up racking up my chips, heading to the cage, and cashing out for the night.
Hi, can I get 2 McChickens, 1 small fry? That's all.
Well, you've been watching the vlog for a while now. You know that sometimes I drive up here to Jacksonville and then I drive back the same night. I figured I already lost $10,000. Might as well spend $200 more and get a nice hotel. So here at the Holiday Inn Express with Topgolf behind me. Got myself a McChicken. I'm pretty sure they made it spicy though. I didn't want it to be spicy. After I eat this, we're gonna go over the session. All right, just finished my McDonald's. It's pushing 2:30 in the morning. Session results, I almost lost $10,000. I lost like 9,600 or something like that. And yeah, pretty gross. Pretty nasty. One of my biggest losses on the Best Bet live stream, possibly the biggest. In a 10, 25, 50 game, 10K is a lot to lose. One of my favorite things about playing on a live stream, though, is that you can go back and you can see what your opponents have, which you can never do when you're playing normal games without, card readers. So you can go back and you can look. Did I get bluffed? Did I make a good fold? Did I make a bad call? All those kind of things. Was my opponent getting out of line? And were my reads right? And, after these live stream games, I go back and kind of look at some of the hands. And I'll say I had an extraordinary amount of setup hands in this session. Setup hands are different than like bad beats and coolers. Like a bad beat would be getting 2-outed on the river. A cooler is like set over set, boat over boat. A setup hand is where it's like you're destined to lose money. Like you're probably not going to go broke, but you're going to lose money in this hand. And I had a ton of setup hands this session. Obviously, went over this already, but the ace-king hand is 6-4 on king 6-6-4. I'm just going to lose a lot of money there, which I kind of did. Queen-jack to pocket sevens on a jack 7-3 board. I just folded to a raise. I felt super nitty folding to that raise, but I just felt like he always had me. Like I didn't feel like he was ever raising anything else other than a set. He was playing snug the entire night. Knew he didn't have an overpair. Knew he would never do that with a worse jack. So folded the queen jack there. The biggest one was the bomb pot. That was just insane. King 7 on king 7-7, and I'm up against kings. That is an insane cooler. In a bomb pot, king 7-7, king 7 versus kings. I'm drawing basically dead. I've been playing a lot of PLO double board bomb pots over the last 9 months, so I feel like I've gotten a lot better at them. And man, you just got to play cautious, especially multi-way when you could be getting quartered because people have the same hand. Once it went raise by George, call by me, call by Dave, I believe, who had been playing very snug, and then pot by George, I'm like, George has got the nuts on one of the boards for sure. I could be chopping. He could have king 7. And then Dave looked like he was ready to go. So I'm like, he must have the nuts on one board. So I found the fold there, which saved me 8,000 or 9,000. I mean, I could have easily lost 8,000 or 9,000 more in that hand, second boat versus top boat. And then another setup hand, the queen high flush versus Greg's ace high flush. Just all these hands that I feel like I was able to get away from and get out cheaply, which was great. And then, of course, the hand of the night, the hand that would have made me unstuck, the hand that would have made this outro a lot better, picking up pocket kings on the $300 blind raise, $1,000 straddle or $1,000 raise by a tilted George, 3-bet by me, jam. I was 2 cards away from a $20,000 pot and being even on the night. I mean, if that doesn't sum up the session, I don't know what else does. With all that being said, though, I do believe that tonight was possibly the best poker I've ever played on a live stream. I know I lost $10,000, but I felt like I played great. I felt like I played disciplined. I feel like I played patient. Old Lex would have blasted off. If I was down $10,000 in a game like this 2 years ago, I either would have left or I would have completely blasted off. I would have freaking dusted the rest of the $20,000, $30,000 I had in my bag. I mean, basically tonight, I'm down 10K. I'm looking around the table, and there's a bunch of tight, good players, and I'm like, I ain't getting my money back from those guys unless I massively cooler them. There's a couple players at the table that were splashing around, but they all know what they're doing. So I'm like, I don't think I'm going to get my 10K back. And old me would have just been monkey tilt. Like, can't believe I came all the way up here. I'm down 10K. I'm never going to get it back. But I felt like I just stayed disciplined, patient, and I went with my reads. I mean, I made some insanely nitty folds, folding top pair to one single raise, folding a boat in a bomb pot, like the second nut boat, but went with my read, and it was correct. And I mean, sometimes that happens in poker. Sometimes you play terrible and you get lucky and you win. Sometimes you play great and you get unlucky and you lose. And I feel like that was tonight, where old me would have lost $25,000. So to lose $9,500, I feel like is a win. And I know this is not really what is good for YouTube. Someone that I've been watching, obviously a lot of people have been watching, Corey Irving or whatever, talking about gambling with his, net worth and stuff, like super entertaining videos. And like, that was me 5-6 years ago. Like, I was literally doing what he was doing. Gambling with my net worth, like gambling with my last 300, gambling with my last 1,000, and it's super entertaining. And like YouTube wise, I could be, hyping this 10K up. Oh my God, I can't believe I lost 10K. How am I gonna, pay my bills, all this stuff? But luckily, I've been grinding my ass off the past 6 years. I can lose 10K, it's okay. But I felt like at the end of the day, I played well, and I feel like that's all that matters. And being a semi-retired poker player, there's some perks, I don't have to dread this 10K loss. I can just try to get it back the next time I play. Anyway, yeah, I mean, this is probably the best I've ever felt after losing $10,000. Maybe it has something to do with those McDoubles. Man, those hit the spot. It's freezing here in Jacksonville. It's 42 degrees. My apartment, the heat, or this fucking hotel, the heat's not really working. But, yeah, it's all right. Gonna get some sleep, and next time I see you guys, hopefully we can have a winning session. We'll see. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back in the next video. Until next time, I'll see ya.